first. And by that I'm not saying they should have been made differently, although yes, some bits probably should have.
Alan.
I'm saying that while Jurassic Park is a wonderful story, it's creative and fun and captured the imagination of a whole generation, it is also a story concept that lends itself rather poorly to having follow-up stories. When you're making a sequel, you've always got to ask, why did people love the first one? And with Jurassic Park, the entire first half of film 1 is dedicated to this feeling of wonder, seeing the Brachiosaurus alongside the characters in a way that back in the day was absolutely breathtaking. Having the raptor come out of their eggs, having the wacky idea of DNA encased in amber explained to us, even having the characters help with the health problems of a triceratops, which is a thing so weird it can't help but capture our attention from sheer novelty value alone. So much of this film is so awe-inspiring, you can't help but smile through most of it. For all intents and purposes, we, the audience, react to Jurassic Park in much the same way Hammond wanted his park-goers to react when they first arrived. But at the film's midpoint, it turns into a horror story as everything goes wrong, and to its credit, the film handles this genre swap in the middle impeccably. When that hunter gets flanked by the Velociraptor and he says,
Clever girl.
That will be forever etched in my memory. It terrified me as a kid. Yes, the movie had great music and effects and writing and so on, but I'd argue it was those two things, the wonder and the horror, both of which being very well done, are the main things that define Jurassic Park's identity as a story. And it was those two aspects that needed to be recaptured in order to make a great sequel.
Except the issue is that you can't replicate a feeling like that, since when you watch the first Jurassic Park film, you're obviously going to feel awe because that's what the film is going to make you feel. It's your first time seeing dinosaurs, and for Jurassic Park's advantage, dinosaurs weren't really that popular, and this was like one of the greatest marvels when it was released. The CGI was great, at least at the time, for how well it portrayed the dinosaurs. And so if you were a kid growing up in the 90s, this would have been your first exposure to dinosaurs. And it's one of the reasons a lot of people have become archaeologists because of Jurassic Park. You can't deny that Jurassic Park played a big role in that. But of course you can't always replicate that feeling. Of course, some people may find like, of course, that doesn't mean like the other films can't have elements like that, but once you see like something for the first time, it's obviously going to wear down. So that's why I always like this comparison where all of the Jurassic Park and World films are all kind of like an Aliens 2 to Aliens 1. Each of like, it's less horror focused and more action since you already know what this franchise is about. You've already seen that first film, and just because like and this is again already an issue with your like precognition because everyone has already seen the first film, so of course the films after, if they tried to repeat it, it would be really boring. Like, for example, I grew up with Jurassic World because that was my first introduction. Like, I legitimately thought that Jurassic Park was a ripoff of Jurassic World because I liked Jurassic World that much. If it wasn't for Jurassic World and when it released at the time, I never would have probably been making these videos at all. And I always like have like this like awe whenever I watch back the films, because I remember like watching that when I was just a young little kid, and now growing up, I still feel that awe. Of course, that's going to exist. Of course, new people are going to find new meanings in these shows, and to immediately just try to imply that it doesn't exist is a bit disingenuous, but that doesn't mean newer people can't experience these franchises for the first time again. Just like me and how I always like loved those films growing up as a kid.
Only there was a problem, because how do you capture a sense of wonder a second time over? It's a question that's way harder to answer than it might first seem, because we only feel awe at new crazy ideas. And how do you throw in new ideas of that caliber when you've already exhausted your concept's capacity to create awe? Jurassic Park is a real one and done kind of story concept that's great for a short, powerful burst of wonder, just enough to last for the first half of a film, let's say, but not much after that.
Except Jurassic Park as a franchise isn't defined by its awe and wonder. Like the book it was based on is dark. Like it is violent and but one of the most important things that it adapted wasn't necessarily the gore, but the themes and messages of what it says. Like when you read it, you're just like you will see like all of these like great questions of like philosophy and ethics, and like it's actually like a very like that is like probably one of the best reasons to love this film so much. That's why I like the first Jurassic Park quite a lot, because it does a pretty good job at like adapting those themes. While of course there are like some areas where it kind of missed a couple, but that's of course going to be granted since it's in an adaptation and stuff are going to change. Even in something like an anime, they're going to change a lot of stuff even from the original. But my point is that there's more to a franchise than just the feeling you're having towards it. It's what it has to says and the philosophy. And even then, even in Jurassic Park 3, which is I think is by far like the second worst, only behind a Rebirth, I would say that I would say that at least it gives me a question about like just because you have good intentions doesn't mean you're going to do a good thing. I always love that line about like that was probably one of my favorite lines as it also encapsulated the franchise. While Rebirth, on the other hand, doesn't really bring up anything really deep and only has a very generic, um, just a very boring healthcare message and doesn't add much nuance to it. While the others added nuance and even gave a gray area to all of the conflicts. But that's a whole other topic, and I feel like Rebirth deserves its own video about why it just doesn't work. So, but that's a whole other topic for other day. But what I'm saying is that a friend you can't define something by just a feeling. It's defined by what it has to say.
Meanwhile, when you look at other films like Star Wars, that is not the case. A New Hope had part of its core appeal be awe at this creative new setting. A New Hope, at the end of the day, is really just the hero's journey told in another form. It's not exactly a fresh kind of story formula, but what elevated that story to being so much more was a highly creative, awe-inspiring setting. Lucas knew that, so made a great sequel by finding a way to carry over that wonder. Now we get to see Hoth, an alien Arctic world, then a city floating above a gas giant. Both imaginative settings that rekindled that feeling of wonder so integral to the fun of film one.
Yeah, but like part of the reason why Star Wars was so successful was kind of in a similar situation to Jurassic Park. While everyone of course knew about sci-fi, you're at the time Star Wars was released, it was at a time when everyone was kind of depressed with the world, especially with nuclear arms race, the bombs, the Red Scare, and a lot of other historical things. And plus, like, another part of it was like, it just like came out at a better time. Well, of course, Star Wars had political themes, especially definitely had it. I'm not denying that. It's more later in the films where you can kind of notice it. But here you can just like, yeah, you can just be like, yeah, that makes sense. You know? Like it just like made everyone feel like have hope in the world. Like because I guess you could see like the Empire as a metaphor for the Red Scare, where like even where everything is just like terrible and everyone's afraid of each other, you can still have hope at the end of the day.
Jurassic Park, due to the nature of its concept, couldn't do this because, as obvious as it is to say, you can only show us dinosaurs for the first time once. They had to abandon the idea of recapturing that awe and doubled down on the other thing the film did well, that being the horror. So films 2 and 3 are nothing but out-and-out horrors from start to finish. I have no doubt that back in the day, people went to see Jurassic Park 2 and 3 expecting to feel that wonder all over again, but were left sorely disappointed. You can point at the Jurassic World franchise, and again, it's the same. Jurassic World is very aware of this, even making this a plot point because people aren't getting excited enough for dinosaurs, so they're genetically engineering this super deadly T-Rex hybrid, doing something bold and new to create some new wonder for better publicity. It's cool they're self-aware about this, but no matter how much you poke fun at the flaws in your own movie, those flaws are still there.
Like I said, as someone whose first Jurassic Park film was Jurassic World, I will always like whenever I come back to it, even if it's like 2 years, I always like feel a sense of wonder and awe. Like every time I open up the DVD, like whenever I open up the Jurassic World DVD, I always feel like my heart, like I feel like a little kid. Like I feel like I was like, and the weird thing is, I never saw the film in theaters, but I did see the film on TV with my family, and when we watched, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible! I love this so much." And heck, even Dominion, and after Dominion, I kind of just felt like my life was complete. Like I actually I do think Dominion's a good film, which is a whole other topic, but after Dominion ended, I just felt like my life was kind of complete. Like I finished and watched the whole story. It's like finishing a book you really liked, and now you don't really know what to do with your life. Like after when Jurassic World Dominion was coming out in 2022, I was so stoked. I brought all my friends, and I just love, and that film will always after I ended that, I always just felt like, hey, this I don't know what to do now. Like the only eventually I came back and I started feeling like the Jurassic World films needed defending, because I felt like they were overhated and misunderstood quite a lot of the time. And I feel like they deserve something more than just being treated garbage. So I that's kind of one of the main motivators. But of course, but my point is that that doesn't mean new people could have grew up with these new franchises in different ways. I grew up with the first one. Well, not the first one, the soft reboot one. And after that, I just felt like after I knew Colin Trevorrow was done with the franchise because he was going to work on something else. And honestly, I just felt kind of in I don't know, I just felt so incomplete. Like I just wanted something more, and I just want to say that people of course are going to have films. I know people down the road well, I think the Jurassic World, my theory is that the Jurassic World sequels will be seen essentially the prequels are seen by Star Wars fans today. Where of course that doesn't just because someone there are going to be new people who grew up with new content. That doesn't mean that those people don't exist.
Let's not forget that there's another side to this issue. I've said before on this channel that one of the principles that makes any good sequel good is that they don't just recapture what people liked about the original, they also add in a bunch of new ideas that harmonize with those original elements. For an example of this done right, look at Shrek 2. In film 1, we have the humour, the reimagined fairy tale elements, and the romance between Shrek and Fiona. So what Shrek 2 did, which couldn't have gone down more smoothly, is they took everything loved about film 1 and didn't just carry it over, they took it to the next level. Shrek's and Fiona's romance is fleshed out even further as we explore it in a new way. We're getting new characters like Prince Charming and the Fairy Godmother, massively fleshing out the scope of these fairy tale elements, yet doing it in a way where it's directly challenging Shrek's and Fiona's relationship because that's the goal of these new characters.
Yes, I agree with you that Shrek 2 is a great sequel and does a great job for its franchise. But like earlier, you were kind of just implying that basically Park can only be good with its wonder and elements, and that's the only thing it can do. Like that's kind of what you were just implying there. And the other movies, even if they may be flawed at times, like Free and Rebirth, but besides like all of them, all the other sequels do at the very least a decent job at talking about like different issues and like bring up different like different philosophical and ethical issues it brings up like Fallen Kingdom focused on the ethics of killing the dinosaurs. Dominion focused on what to do with those dinosaurs and what to actually do. And about corporate greed and how like companies can be kind of terrible. And another one is Jurassic World that focused on like the meta on like the dangers of always going bigger and always going better. That's also another important theme and also pretty important. There is stuff here, you just have to look at it and figure out what the film is trying to say. You shouldn't like be that blind to like immediately go say that without looking at the nuances and what these things and franchises are trying to say. Just that's what you should try to do.
Films like Shrek 2, Terminator 2, and Empire Strikes Back are masterclasses in great sequeling because of this approach. Imagine if we got 2 more films after Shrek 1 that did nothing to evolve that formula. They just had Shrek once again escorting Fiona across a fairy tale land. That sounds way more boring than what we got, and that is more or less exactly what the Jurassic Park sequels are, especially 2 and 3. While watching them, there is a strong sense that all those films are really out to do is recapture the exact same feelings we felt in the climax of that first film, and nothing else. Whenever you look at great sequels, they always get more creative than this. It is no wonder people don't like those films, because as Ron Swanson once said,
"It's always worse the second time around."
you can look at the first one. The plot of this one is, a corporation chooses to meddle with nature and create a dinosaur theme park for profit, but they're pushing the boundaries of science further than they should be pushed. A man in touch with nature comes along and says, no, you shouldn't do this, don't mess with nature. But they're ignored, and of course it ends in disaster and becomes a bit of a horror story as everyone is eaten by dinosaurs. So the funny thing is, I was actually talking about the first Jurassic Park film there. I just asked my editor to play Jurassic World clips over it, and it worked just depressingly well.
But again, that's a pretty oversimplification of like what happened. And even then, Jurassic World and Jurassic Park, as I've explained in multiple different videos, they're pretty different films. They're not really similar in really the slightest. Yes, they both have dinosaurs breaking out, but that's relatively simple and kind of misses the point. And plus, Jurassic World is meant to be a soft reboot to the franchise, so you have to consider that into consideration. And another thing is that it's also disingenuous to say that Jurassic World is a carbon copy of Jurassic Park because that's just simply not really true, and that just completely misses the point. And you have to like actually understand like what it's talking about.
People didn't mind Jurassic World. In a word, it was fine. It got okay reviews. Certainly better reviews than Jurassic Parks 2 and 3. But I've yet to meet one person who enjoys it more than that first film, and there is something to that. I think Jurassic World and The Force Awakens fall for an identical problem. They're both living in the shadow of a great story that came before, so in the writer's infinite wisdom they decided, hey, why bother to do something fresh when we can tell the exact same story again?
Again, that is just a pure simplification of the plot of Jurassic World. There's of course more nuances here, and you have to understand about like why it's like this. there's going to be more nuances, and you have to look at that instead of just like a half lie. Since yes, of course it's going to share elements of the first film, but as I've explained in other videos, these films are nothing alike. They have a lot of differences that separate them, and everyone who does make this argument always gives a very surface level interpretation with missing the point of what it actually says. And plus, I want to bring up something, but Colin could have easily brought back the other characters like Alan, Ellie, and in fact, the only character he brought back was Henry Wu because he thought it would best because Henry Wu was the only one who served the story, even though he literally only had less than a minute in the original film. Like, I just want to stress that he Colin stated this like around the time Jurassic World released, and he explained that he easily could have just brought back all the other films, but all of the other characters, and they're he didn't state like anything due to time constraints. No, he could have seriously done it, but instead he decided to focus on a completely set of new characters, and the ones he did bring back was relatively minor and didn't do much in the original film. Unlike with The Force Awakens, where while I don't think it's bad that they had Han Solo come back, that in and of itself isn't a bad thing. You have to understand that there's more nuances here.
Like, you know what happens when you photocopy something and then you photocopy that photocopy, and each time you do it, the details just get worse and worse? Yeah, that is my review of the Jurassic World trilogy. From a sequeling perspective, there is a fascinating devolution as the films go along. Like, say what you like about how well they were made, but what is clear is they lost touch with their roots more and more as things went along.
Again, I've already explained this multiple times, and I don't need to rephrase this again and again. And also, like, I don't know why you would say, like, if the movies were good in general, because, or if they even did a good job, because doesn't that just undermine your point? Because, like, if they're all the same, then that just means that they would be automatically bad, even if they were, like, good films, even if you ignored them. They just wouldn't be good as a sequel. So, just by stating that, kind of just undermines what you're already arguing. It's like saying, Oh, it's like going to like an ice cream shop and asking, "Oh, can I have some ice cream?" And he says, "Oh, no, our ice cream is bad. We only use artificial flavors. But if you try it, it might still be good." And I'll just laugh and be like, "Well, then why did you state that in general? Because that's just ridiculous. You're just undermining your point by just saying it could be good or that they might actually be good, but they're still just artificial flavors."
Until it ends with Jurassic World Dominion. In this one, while they give us obligatory horror scenes, they also have bike chases, which will be more at home in an Indiana Jones film than they would a Jurassic Park one. There's even a whole sequence involving a knife fight and leap across a balcony that feels uncannily similar to a certain scene in Jason Bourne Ultimatum. It is playing on screen right now for you for your judgment. Let me know if these scenes look oddly similar to you. We also have scenes where characters are infiltrating an enemy base like it's some kind of spy thriller, and while they're fine scenes, we didn't love Jurassic Park for the Jason Bourne action thriller emphasis, and we didn't love it for that Indiana Jones feel either. Jurassic World Dominion is a film with no identity. It is trying so hard to capture what we like about other films, it nearly totally forgets to capture what we love about Jurassic Park. But there's something more here, another entirely separate reason why the sequels just never quite measured up.
As I explained, the Jurassic Park sequels are like an Aliens 2 to Aliens 1. You've already seen like all the horror and the suspense, so then it focused more on the action side of it. That's what it focused on and what you have to understand. Please do not get that mixed up. Of course, these are two com- like of but you have to understand that saying the film doesn't have an identity is a very like insane take. Jurassic World does have an identity, and I think it is a good film. I know, like, that's a pretty hot take, and I do think it's a good film. I will defend it for it, but you have to understand that this wasn't this well at the very well Dominion has like a it has a plot on what it's doing, and of course it's going to have a different plot. If we just keep doing the same things, then we're obviously just going to get rehashed, which is what you were complaining about, and then you're complaining about it being too different. Like, I think I found the holy trinity of Jurassic World haters. Rather it does something similar, oh no, it's too the same. If it does something too different, oh no, that's bad because I don't want it being that different. Oh, oh no, a character does a dumb decision but completely misses the context. Oh, that's completely stupid. Like, I swear this is like the holy trinity or duology. It's rather they're complaining that's too different the next time, or they're complaining it's too similar, and then the next time they're complaining about like how it doesn't make any sense that character can do this. Even though in the first film we had people surviving being shocked by 5,000 volts of fence, which real humans cannot do, by the way. So, like, this is just total insanity.
It's all to do with theme. The big theme of film 1 can be boiled down into the question, can science go too far? Like any good story, we have characters taking different stances on this theme. We have Grant, a technophobe who loathes modern science.
I hate computers.
Dr. Grant's not mission compatible.
They've done it in for me.
He firmly believes, yes, science can go too far. In fact, all of science has already gone too far. Then you have Hammond, a man so enamored with the idea of progress for progress's sake, he is happy to bring back dinosaurs from extinction, oblivious to the dangers. We then have our exploration. The character's beliefs are challenged. Hammond sees what unchecked progress can do, sees how his attempts to control the dinosaurs by making them all infertile clearly hasn't worked, and he sees the follies in his belief. Yet it's also not one-sided, as Grant has the very technology he hates be the thing that saves his life in the climax, and the film offers its wisdom with both Grant and Hammond having grown to see the folly of their old views. It tells us that while technology is important, some things are best left alone, giving us a nice tie-off to the theme. This is neat, effective storytelling, and it's hard to do better than this. Also, as a power tip, if you ever want to analyse a story, the main character's arc almost always underpins the theme of the story. So as a technique to realise the theme of any story, you should start by asking how do the characters change, and extrapolate from that what the story is trying to say. So with that said, let's do exactly that for Jurassic Park 2. What is this one's theme? Well, Jeff Goldblum begins the film saying interacting with the dinosaurs on this island is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas. He only agrees to go there because his girlfriend is about to die there. In the middle of the film, he says,
"Taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in the long, sad history of bad ideas."
And at the end of the film, his beliefs are fully vindicated because, yes, it turns out letting a T-Rex loose among humans isn't a good idea after all. Ian is static. It's honestly rather funny how the Ian we see at the end of film 2 is identical to the Ian we see at the start of film 1. He learns no lessons. Now, Ian being static works fine for film 1 because he's a side character, and side characters can easily get away with never changing. But now he's the protagonist in film 2, we've got to have something to latch onto here, a big internal issue he's struggling with that relates to this new theme. But Jurassic Park 2, as best I can tell, is a story that doesn't really have a theme. It has loose ideas about greed and capitalism, but it doesn't conclusively say anything other than echo the conclusions already reached by film 1.
Yes, there is a message here, and it's just a bit more subtle than in the first movie because, and also like like The Lost World. While I don't like it that much, it's like a 4 out of 10 for me. It does have a message about the dangers of environmental extremism. I know that seems a bit like out of left field, but you know what? Like, I kind of like feel like Shinobi 03 also just did a way better job than me on this, so I'm just gonna leave it to him.
This time. If it wasn't clear, one of the things that bugs me about this review is critic constantly blaming all our heroes for everything bad that happened on the island, when in actuality, it was just Nick Van Owen. All what Malcolm wanted to do was bring Sarah out of the island and that's it. He didn't care for Hammond's quest of documenting the wildlife. Eddie Carr was just there as a technician, and Kelly was a stowaway. But Nick Van Owen was the one Hammond specifically asked to sabotage Angel's efforts in capturing the animals.
I think I should tell you guys. Hammond told me these people might show up. I thought we'd be finished by the time they got started, but in case they weren't, he did send a backup plan.
What backup plan?
Me?
In the beginning of the movie, we hear him say that he used to be in Greenpeace. Greenpeace, as we all know, is an environmental activist group.
Do some volunteer work with Greenpeace once in a while?
Greenpeace, what drew you there?
Women.
But later on, Tembo recognizes him as part of Earth First.
I know you. You're that Earth First bastard, aren't you?
Earth First, what's that?
Provisional saboteur.
Firemen! Criminals!
Earth First is a real-life extreme radical environmental group, and they're considered a sellout by mainstream environmental advocates. They are known for their violent and destructive approaches to protect the environment, which involves sabotage and destruction of private properties, and in some cases, direct assaults. In short, they're the kind ready to murder people in the name of the environment. Eco-terrorists. And as we see in the movie, Owen's behavior did reflect that.
We came here to watch, you came to strip mine the place. It's a looter mentality, all you care about is what you can take, you have no right.
My point is the predators don't hunt when they're not hungry.
No, only humans do.
Oh, you're breaking our heart.
The animal exists on the planet for the first time in tens of millions of years, and the only way you can express yourself is to kill it.
Ignoring his rescue of Junior because he felt sorry for the baby, everything else from freeing the dinosaurs and setting them loose on the hunters instead of letting them go at peace, to sabotaging their vehicles and equipment, and of course, taking Tembo's bullets when he wasn't looking. It's these actions that led many to believe that this movie was intended to be a commentary on these extremist activist groups. Nick Van Owen sees his actions as in a heroic way and never considered the consequences on the lives of other people. Hell, Tembo could have saved his people from the Tyrannosaurus couple and justified it with self-defense. And this might shock some of you, but in the comic adaptation, Malcolm was totally into killing the Tyrannosaurus. And speaking of that scene, it tells us that even Owen thought that was a stupid idea that could have led to Sarah and Kelly's death. You see a pattern here? If this comic adaptation really was based on the earlier scripts, then they did a huge disservice to the movie by taking out all these little character building moments which led us to horribly flawed characters in a bad way. Still, that doesn't change the fact that it was mainly Owen himself. It's also bad that they don't show him after they get out of the island, leaving many dissatisfied that he didn't get his comeuppance and didn't take responsibility to his actions, and the last thing we see from him is this very subtle look of defeat when he realizes his efforts ended in vain after witnessing the captured buck. But to say that he is the sole responsible wouldn't be fair either, because Sarah Harding is also part of the blame for assisting him in the camp and for the dumb idea of walking around with a bloodstained jacket that Tembo himself pointed out to her, and yet she didn't even think of getting rid of it until it was already too late when the Rex couple found them. We were told that she's an excellent animal expert, but what kind of expert would do such idiotic thing as walking around reeking of animal blood? Are we sure she's even a real doctor?
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
And yet, critic and many people take it as all of them are equally responsible and all of them deserve to die. Also, it's hard to say there are no memorable characters when you have Roland Tembo, who many consider him the best character in the movie, with many considering him their most favorite, and even Roger Ebert himself said that Peter Postlethwaite was the best actor in the movie for giving the impression that he really was on an island with dinosaurs and not set pieces. No matter how many attempts of the studio to paint him as the villain, he left a memorable impression on the audience. Sure, keeping the deleted scenes would help make him more grey than black, but it didn't matter anyway because he was that awesome.
Oh, you're breaking our heart. Saddle up, let's get this movable feast underway.
Of course, he still had his weird moments, Like, what kind of hunter would keep pointing the barrel of his shotgun up in the air where water and dirt can't get in the barrel? Or why would he leave the shotgun next to the strangers? Did he trust Sarah because he's a hunter and heard of her due to his background? Or why didn't he bring more shells to the expedition? Was he really counting on killing the buck with 2 rounds? What if he missed? What if these 2 shots weren't enough to kill it?
There's no sense of wonder, no sense of adventure. It's just setup scenes for the dinosaurs to walk in and destroy. That's it!
Ironic that later you'd say the exact opposite in Jurassic World.
It's a bad sequel, plain and simple.
A bad sequel that once used to be the highest grossing film of all time until James Cameron came along with his sinking ship.
The only good thing to come out of this is maybe someone will possibly get the idea to film King Lear with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when the highlight of a movie is another movie that doesn't exist, that's a bad sign.
You know what else is a bad sign? When your audience remember the movie better than you do.
I'm the nostalgic.
It is very much one of those roller coaster films where you should just turn your brain off and enjoy it. Just don't think about it too hard because there's not much going on beneath the surface. People love Jurassic Park for its rich themes, so of course they'd be disappointed with a sequel that dropped the ball here so totally. With Jurassic Park 3, however, things do get a little bit different. The film made an interesting choice where they did give us a new theme, but this time it's around a couple learning to rekindle their old romance as they search for their lost son. It's about family, essentially. And yes, film 1 did have that mini arc where Grant learns to love kids more. This is definitely a better choice than what we got in film 2, because having a theme is better than having none, as it turns out. The issue is that, again, they're totally misunderstanding the greatness of film 1. Grant learning to love kids, while it was enjoyable, was a mere footnote of that movie. The larger question of can science go too far is way more prominent, and I'd argue resonated with audiences far more than Grant's side arc of learning to care more about kids. To back that point up, it is interesting to note that in the original novel, Grant does not have this arc. It is purely an addition for that film. In the book, he likes kids from start to finish there. Yet, Michael Crichton's novel is still a beloved story that sold like hotcakes. Ergo, this theme around Grant is not integral to why that story was such a smash hit. Exactly this idea of rekindling love, like this could have been delivered just as well in an action movie like Die Hard, a rom-com like Love Actually, or even one of those crappy Christmas films. It's hard to get more generic as themes go. They could have at least tried to swing for the fences here. Instead, they gave the baseball a light tap, picking something that was frankly too safe. Like, one thing's for sure, Jurassic Park was handling ideas that challenged the audience and got us to think in new ways about science, which is no easy feat. So in order for any sequel to measure up, they'd need to say something just as profound, if not about science, then at least some other topic using dinosaurs as a vector for this theme's delivery. And while I hesitate to say that's impossible, it sounds like a bloody tall order. If you have an idea for a Jurassic Park sequel you think's great, then do let me know in the comments and prove my cynicism wrong. But if you ask me, the studio should have held off on making any sequels until a concept came along in this vein that had something at least somewhat profound to offer. But they evidently didn't do that when making Jurassic World. Admittedly, this film has an identical plot to that first movie, but let's overlook plot. What about theme? What fresh themes does this film have? Simply, it kind of doesn't. Yes, Jurassic World has given it all a fresh coat of paint, but put both Hammond's and Claire's characters side by side, and you'll notice the similarities are kind of hilarious. What you have is a person so wrapped up in making a profitable business that they're willing to push science to its limits in the name of making dangerous dinosaurs. They never stop to consider the dangers of this. This manifests itself in the form of the dinosaurs escaping and a bunch of people getting eaten. The issue is, this is the same theme. Surely you can aim higher than this.
No, they are not similar in the slightest. Claire and Hammond are nowhere near similar. If anything, these are probably like characters that I would never even say are similar in the slightest. What? So, for one, like, the claim that... So, for one, they're not No, they have completely different motives, as Claire is really doing this for money and Hammond does do this as a dream. While it is an expensive dream and it like probably would have had some people gatekept simply due to the money, that doesn't mean with Claire, she was just doing this for money, and even then she was just and her arc was learning to respect the dinosaurs, not realizing like necessarily what was bad. Well, yes, that's more of a side arc. It's not really the main arc in the film. And of course, you're going to have similarities. Claire and Hammond are not the same in the slightest. They are nowhere near look like each other. That is completely ridiculous. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Because, like, that is just total insanity. I don't really even know what to say to that. Uh, And another thing is that Claire Claire, she at first she doesn't respect the dinosaurs, and later on she starts to respect them and realizing the importance of life. You have to understand that that like it's just like my point too, because like and even then Hammond, he's just like a naive old man who does it for his own kind of does it for his own dreams. That's what he does it for.
Ultimately, I don't think the Jurassic Park movies ever stood a chance at being great sequels. The concept just isn't right for it. You look at something like Harry Potter or Star Wars, and those are stories where you're set up for success with the next installment because nothing's stopping you from recapturing what audiences loved about that first story, other than your competence at the craft. But with Jurassic Park, while many of the films are technically well edited and scored and acted, every last one of those movies is in a mad scramble to try and justify why it exists, trying to find yet one more contrived excuse to go back to that island or otherwise shove dinosaurs in front of our faces. The creators are stuck between a rock and a hard place with these sequels. They can explore similar themes to film 1, only every time they've done so they've ended up saying just more or less the exact same things, which is hardly thought-provoking. Or they can go the totally different approach of having themes that have little to do with what made film 1 so thought-provoking. And when they do this, while they might compel a few people watching, they're also failing to resonate with why we love Jurassic Park so much in the first place, which is what any good sequel must do. While sequels can be fun sometimes, in the same way new technology can be useful, there are circumstances where, however tempting it might be in the name of profit, some things truly are better off undisturbed. It is deeply ironic that Steven Spielberg never learned from the very moral he told us in that first movie, because if he had, he would have never made film 2. It really is the epitome of irony that all these Jurassic Park sequels are existing in spite of that moral that the first movie was trying to say. It's bloody hard writing a great story, but the truth is, you've got to put the hours in. That's the only way you will improve. Speaking of, I was watching a course lately by Myla Goldberg where she breaks down writing from an ideas point of view. If you ever struggle with creating characters, coming up with great settings, not the writing itself, but the stuff that comes before the writing, this course was made for you. For those of you who've got Skillshare already,
I don't really have much to say here, as I kind of already explained all my points earlier. But I guess the best thing I could talk about is that I guess to be honest, this video was pretty bad. It was pretty weirdly contradicting, and I don't have any hate against the guy. I think he does make some pretty good content from time to time, but I do wish this could be better in some areas, just hoping that could be better.